Hello, everybody, and welcome to Storyboard, the storytelling talk show. My name is Cameron Evesque Davis. Each week on this show, I will be bringing on a guest from the artistic community to talk about themselves, their artistic projects, and what stories are really speaking to them lately. In the second part of the show, we will be playing the game of Storyboard, a storytelling game for 2 players that I created for this show. By the end of it, we will have created a story together, and we hope you enjoy watching us do so. So without further ado, welcome to Storyboard. And welcome back. My guest for this week is Tim Harrison of HDC Fabrication. Tim Harrison, aka HDC, is a master-level, award-winning costumer, craftsmanship judge, and industry fabricator who first got his start in August 2012. Practical effects, sculpting, casting, foamsmithing, leatherworking, 3D printing, some sewing and metalwork are just some of the skills he has brought to the table, along with being known for fine detail work and cinematic level of finishing. Providing costume design and fabrication work for customers, film, and theater, he has had work featured in Image and Marvel Comics, Chicago theater shows, and select films. He continues to spread his zest for life, knowledge, and love of the craft in the form of workshops, panels, and by sharing as much experience and information as he can. In 2017, Harrison Designs and Concepts, or HDC, was formally founded and continues to bring your fantasy to reality in 2020. Welcome to the show, Tim. You are now live.
Hello.
It's good to have you here. I've been a fan of your work and everything for quite some time now, and obviously we're good friends and have worked together before. I love starting a new show because it means that I'm just inviting people that I already know on to talk to them. So, as far as the interview goes, the first question for these weird times is going to be for a while just, how are you doing with Gestures Vaguely?
Good. It's definitely interesting times in multiple fronts out there, but just trying to keep busy. Been using some of the slower times to just reorganize, optimize, and just generally improve while I've got the time to do so.
Yeah.
Shop projects, organization, time management, all that stuff. And also doing some other things that I necessarily couldn't afford to put time towards.
Like what?
Gaming.
Oh, yeah. Right. Gaming's good.
So yeah, I was just trying to keep busy for the most part.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Now, obviously, the introduction, that eloquent biography you sent me was told you basically what people do, but could you just sort of expand on what you as HDC does in the community and everything? And could you make sure to speak up? You're a little quiet there.
Yeah, essentially. Sorry.
No worries.
So pretty much custom fabrication and design for costume work. We do a lot of replica work as well. There are things that we do for the cosplay community in addition to making costumes, which include providing educational content, online streaming, panels, going to start doing some YouTube videos.
Nice.
When the convention season was a thing, we would do a lot of educational panels with conventions. They'd bring us on as guests to talk about certain topics and doing this kind of work, and then also getting contracted to do things for some film and theater.
Yeah.
Anywhere from basic static props or costume pieces or accent pieces to practical effect work with smoke and electronic, and a lot of even some animatronic work as well. So yeah, everything from some basic little trinkets or accent pieces to full-blown costumes or armor and weapons and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen your work, obviously. That was for the benefit of people who don't know who you are. who you are. And I mean, you sort of inspired me to get the 3D printer in the first place. Even though mine is currently broken. But I know you do a bunch of shit. Sorry, I just got a disconnected notification.
Oh, okay.
Luckily, we are still recording, so that should be fine. Unfortunately, the live show seems to have gone down. That's fun.
Oh, I'm gonna blame Facebook.
I'm not going through Facebook.
Oh.
Come on, man. Reconnection successful.
Yay. Hello.
Okay. Anyway, sorry about that. I love online. I've been watching a lot of Majority Report, which is a sort of leftist, or mostly leftist, news program, and they keep having problems as well. I think it's just the time. But regardless, so yeah, I mean, your projects and stuff are awesome. I've obviously seen a lot of your prop work with Terra Mysterium, because we've worked together through that. One of my questions is actually, funnily enough, nothing to do with your actual prop work, but I am curious about how you met the Terra Mysterium folks. So for people who are watching, Terra Mysterium is a theater company that both Tim and I are involved with here in Chicago. And we sort of met through that and that community. And I was just curious about how you got involved with their original projects as well. And we'll get back to what you actually do in a bit.
Yeah. So when I first started making again, it was 2012, and I decided I actually wanted to do steampunk stuff.
Right.
I wanted to do steampunk Halloween thing, and through that, I was just researching not only the aesthetic, but also the community. A lot of that came up, and through that, found out about TeslaCon.
Mm-hmm.
And also similarly, at a similar time frame, found out about Terra Mysterium and read about their work, and just kind of knew of them. And at that TeslaCon 2012, I think it was TeslaCon 3, is when I actually formally met everybody. And
I think that was 3.
I had my plasma ball pistol set and everything on me, and they really enjoyed that. And that was pretty much the end of the story.
I mean, that's sort of how it works with groups like that, though. I mean, you just sort of meet them somewhere, and then it's the rest is history, as they say. Oops, I misclicked. So, one question: what got you actually started with prop building then? Because you're obviously doing a bunch of really technical shit now, and you had to start somewhere. What was the sort of catalyst to start making stuff like that?
I've always been like a maker and tinkerer at heart. Like even when I was a wee lad, I'd always, like at age 3 and 4, find things and take them apart. I've always enjoyed like electronics and technology, and then originally went to school for computer and electrical engineering because I wanted to do animatronic and robot design. Because Star Wars.
Yeah. I mean that shit inspires people. That's the point.
Yeah. And that kind of devolved because of multiple reasons, and then getting back into it after school as I started making again and doing more practical effects, and then the microcontroller community and all that stuff became more prevalent, and I started getting back into that, and that all kind of came full circle as I continued to develop that, and then additional skill sets, and realized it was just kind of this is pretty much what I wanted to do from the start. So
then you took the leap, right? You actually made it a company and did the thing, which is ballsy, to say the least. And I mean, it's awesome because I mean, I obviously run Hell's Hand, but it's not anything yet, and I don't make any money, and I'm constantly worried about. Like I want to eventually do it as a job, but you have to like get to a certain level where you know you might be able to survive that way. and eventually I'll get there. But it's inspiring to see people like yourself manage to make that leap and actually do it, and now do it as a living. You're obviously massively busy. There's all those memes that go around of what's the phrase? Do work that in what you love, and you'll never work a day in your life, which is just untrue.
So
it's actually you work way more, and even with something you love, you end up not always enjoying it, but like
but it's still better than the alternative.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. Like, I don't hate my day job, but it's not what I want to be doing. But eventually we'll get there. So you got started doing that. You mentioned what was that? The microcontroller community?
Well, like the advent and advancement of microcontrollers as a hobby, and just through the advancement of technology. Even
what's a microcontroller is the question.
Like an Arduino. So it's essentially just a little mini low-cost computer.
Is it like a Raspberry Pi? Would count as that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Raspberry Pi has a little bit more functionality.
Right.
Whereas the Arduino is kind of like a watered-down variant, which is capable of still has its own kind of proprietary programming language, but it's capable of various light animations and some sound effects and things like that, depending upon the boards. Super low cost stuff, and allows you to do things that really easily that in the past would require a bit more work and electronics knowledge.
Yeah, for sure.
Just making an LED like fade in and out would require essentially like using different components, like a 5x5 timer circuit, which is a old school integrated circuit.
Right. So instead of having to use all the different circuits to sort of manually time it, do you have like a program that you can code on through the device then?
It's got its own language library, so you pretty much like there's even precompiled code functionalities in there, and it's a lot less wiring. It's essentially with the special LEDs, you've got your positive and then your ground and then the data connection, and that's all that's going to the board versus you've got your 8-pin controller and then a transistor and capacitors and resistors and all that stuff in order to get the same functionality.
Yeah.
And you just hook it up to the computer, hit upload, and you're done.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Like I think in college, my single lab science class that I had to take was an electronics course, which was actually very interesting, surprisingly. I mean, not really surprisingly. It was more surprising that I had a good electronics class at a private arts college. It was because there's a lot of sound people there, so they learn about like speakers and how they work, which are all, of course, electronic things. I took it because I was like, that sounds interesting, and it also fits in my schedule. But yeah, we learned a lot about like how boards actually work, which was something that's very interesting because I grew up doing computer stuff. I grew up around computers, and I built my desktop and stuff like that. But I literally don't actually know how computers work. I have no idea how you can get from zeros and ones to anything. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. And the idea of doing an electronic thing and actually having it work just using the original hardware and the hard way of what you were talking about blows my mind. And I am, that's really cool. What was that thing called again? Because now I want to look.
5x5 timer circuit?
No. The microcontroller.
Oh, Arduino.
Sorry, what was that?
Arduino.
Cool.
Arudino, and it's got its own programming language, but they've got all sorts of different kind of boards for it. Everything varying from things that are about the size of a quarter to a lot larger ones. So you can kind of do robotics and things like with that.
That's really cool.
It's a lot of cool stuff.
So as far as your stuff lately, do you have any like really cool projects you're working on now?
I'm doing the version 2, the updated version of our Mandalorian.
Yeah, so for those who
Uh,
don't know, Tim does just a really awesome Mandalorian
I can
outfit.
scoot him
Yeah,
over
if you
here.
if you would, yeah, hell yeah. Sadly, I don't have a screen of just them. Yeah, there he is. Check that out. So that is Tim's Mandalorian. Screen accurate AF.
This is the version 1 that we did was for our display for C2E2.
Yeah, C2E2, the last con that happened.
Yeah, last,
It's glad to see
and
it.
there's things that didn't get done just due to time constraints because of um, the with the other work going on that I had to get out the door.
Yeah.
This went from digital files to this in 3 weeks.
That's very fast.
So,
so how much of that is 3D printed and how much of it isn't, or is it all mostly?
all of the armor is 3D printed. The rounds are 3D printed. The weapons are 3D printed. The original grav charges, that's all 3D printed. We have since refined the design on a lot of this stuff. This is the new version 2 grav charge, which is pretty much as screen accurate as it's available.
It's awesome.
Right now.
And hey, I did sound design for that.
I did. But this actually has one of the 555 timer circuits in it.
Okay.
Nice custom circuit board and everything.
So on your live streams, you show off you making this stuff, just your literal you at work in the workshop.
Yeah. The last one that I did, I hadn't streamed in a while, but the last one that we actually did was doing all of the reflow soldering for those circuit boards.
Sure.
That I just showed you. It's a little different from regular soldering. It uses a big hot plate, and you essentially just apply paste and then put all the components where they need to go in that paste, and then put them on this hot plate, and it gradually brings the temperature up to the solder.
So it melts it and then sticks it onto the thing that you need.
Yeah.
That's very
but it
interesting.
allows you to work with these itty bitty smaller components, which is really hard to do with a standard soldering iron. And I can fit 20 on the hot plate at a time versus doing one at a time. And Cortana's being weird because she just listens.
Gotta talk to you right now.
Yeah.
I'm named after a Halo character.
That's probably the reason why Microsoft bought Bungie.
Yes, just for Halo. So you're working on so is the redesign just the grav charges, or were there problems with the original that you wanted to fix or something, or?
It's like from a functioning standpoint, it's fine. It's so especially with our Star Wars stuff, there's a few legitimately sanctioned costume groups that we try to meet their standards. So
like 501st and stuff.
Yeah. All this, everything Star Wars that leaves the shop is acceptable for costume submission for 501st, Rebel Legion, and Mandalorian mercs.
That's awesome.
Things just inaccuracy stuff on here, specifically with the chest plate. It's missing some things, and also some curvature, some stuff on the thighs. The helmet's passable, but it's since been redesigned, so it's got a more accurate look.
It is very funny hearing you say, yeah, this gorgeous thing behind me, it's passable. It'll do for now, I guess. That is an amazing level of perfectionism, my friends.
It's as fellow fans of the franchise, it's been a while since something has reinvigorated my love for it. And this show
lots of people
was
said
the first thing that really, really felt Star Wars to me in the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree in general.
So it's it's been nice getting this kind of refinement out of the costume again. And it's a rare like business trifecta that it's something that I wanted to make anyway.
Yeah.
It's a very, very good showcase of varying skill
Yeah.
sets and finishing techniques, and it's pop culture relevant.
Yeah, and you can certainly sell parts of it or whatever because people will
Yeah.
buy it. People who
Yes.
don't have the skills or the equipment, like I don't have a 3D printer big enough to print a helmet, but so people will pay for that. And I mean, I know the convention thing is really, really big for you, and so the fact that convention season doesn't exist this year, um, are you figuring out ways to do work around that? And
Yeah, for the most part, conventions when we work them, it's typically treated as a marketing platform, so
right,
we don't get a lot of sales
sure,
from conventions. But there, it's something that I really enjoy doing, like from the panel
yeah,
aspect and table posting and things like that. So that's been kind of a bummer, but it's also extremely time consuming and
oh,
exhausting
yeah,
preparing for that, and then doing the work uh, at the convention because you're essentially on for 12 hours a day, 3 days in a row, and then you get home and just get back to the regular grind again.
oof, yeah. I mean, I haven't done a business side of working a con, but I've done like even just the acting side at TeslaCon.
Yeah,
I mean, you go there and you work the whole weekend, and then you go to work on Monday, which is like, it's a lot. But it is a fabulous way of getting your stuff in front of a bunch of people, for sure.
yeah.
Um,
Uh, it's I miss it. I enjoy it, but it's also been nice not having to travel
oh, yeah, that'll do it.
and having all those weekends and not having the preparation time involved for
Yeah,
that.
and now you
So
have more time to just actually work on the projects. um,
uh, especially the grab charge. Oh, hello, cat. Um,
you have a shop cat?
this is shop cats.
Yay.
How's this dirty cat? I did not name them. But we were doing when everything kind of broke out. We were doing a lot of PE production initially,
Yeah.
but after with like during that time and then with that, it gave a lot of refinement time, I suppose, for the grab charges. And I apparently the last time I did that level of refinement was with thermal detonators. So I think I just like the handheld blinky.
Handheld blinky
Sound.
things are cool, especially
Yeah,
because I've held your thermal detonator. Like, it has good weight to it, too. Like, it feels like it could be a thermal detonator. And it's so satisfying to like click it on and have those noises. I mean, they're just toys, really, and we're adults. You're an adult making toys, but toys are fun, and
good place to be.
yeah, it's like anybody who gives anyone shit for that would be a ridiculous person. Any other people who like complain about people who cosplay is like really sad people. I
Yeah.
think like what kind of
Go,
person?
go, go cosplay your football games.
Yes, go cosplay your football games. But I mean, I don't hate football either. It's just there's
Oh
there's
yeah,
there's a
no,
lot of weird uh, animosity towards nerds. Well, I mean, honestly though, I've seen it go either way nowadays. I
yeah,
don't like the sports ball thing anymore. I find that a really rude, weird way of saying like of doing the same thing of making fun of them for liking something at the same. I think there is a high road to be taken, which is, yeah. Well, I mean, we people like stuff, whatever it
yeah.
happens to be. Um,
Like real life, that's fine.
yeah. So, oh, by the way, the big question is, what's the shop cat's name?
I think this one is Scaredy Cat. The other one is Half Cat.
Taff cat,
Half.
half cat.
She's half black and white.
Oh, that's really
Um,
cool.
uh,
Well, it's important to have fluffy buddies while you're working, I have to say. Although
uh,
Lamar and Anubis here do annoy me as I'm trying to do, the show and work on music or whatever all the time.
yeah.
It is an annoyance I will live with.
They're actually for the building, and they were brought in as ratters.
Oh, interesting.
So before I knew their official names, I called this one like they they're very people friendly and lovey. but this one's more lovey, so I called her Aphrodite, and then the other one is more of the hunter, so she was Artemis.
Nice. I love them. So, for the final question of the interview portion, I always ask the same thing. So, what stories of any medium, so they can be video games, movies, TV, podcast, whatever has a story, what stories are like speaking to you and really like things you are really enjoying lately?
Two biggest things are I've actually been going through the Dune book series since the new movie's coming
It is
out. So
indeed.
I'm almost done with the first book, and I've always enjoyed the David Lynch movie.
My
And
my dad insists that Dune, like the first one, is excellent, and then the next many are not. Um, but I've never read them. How do you feel about them then? I mean, I know you're saying you're loving them or liking them, but
the so far this first book is fantastic.
yeah,
I have not read them. I do audiobooks a lot.
yeah,
Because I don't have time to sit down and actually read anymore.
yeah.
So I like it. I can either put these on while I'm driving or while I'm doing some other light things. And it's the audiobook itself is very well casted and
That's good.
very very well done. And it's as most books do compared to the movie adaptation. It's the David Lynch film is so far has been pretty spot on.
That's
But
great.
it's the little details and everything just due to the form factor
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
that they didn't put in, and there's so much more depth and storytelling, which I've really really enjoyed, and it's a very crazily and like deeply written lore.
That's awesome. I
in
love world building. There's a yeah. I mean, there's only so much you can do with a film, of course.
yeah,
And I never blame filmmakers. There's some of my friends who like really don't like the Harry Potter films or something, but it's like, honestly, for those massive books, they did pretty well. And especially in a few of them, like they're fitting exact scenes in. And I always appreciate that. But obviously, reading books is, you get all those little details. My favorite books don't have a movie or a good movie adaptation, because one of my favorites is John Dies at the End. They did a movie of it, but they didn't have the budget to do the movie of it.
oh,
So like they did their best, but they like combined two female characters into one and like made her less interesting. It was just so weird. It was very upsetting.
the Aragon book series, the Inheritance Saga, was a really cool book. It pretty much it takes the base hero story platform,
Yeah, the hero's
but
journey.
it was pretty much essentially a fantasy version of Star Wars,
Yeah.
which was really neat.
Well, they're both hero's journey.
Yeah. Um,
What was the second?
but
What was the second piece of art you said you were really into lately?
Breath of the Wild.
Right.
Uh, um, I I've always enjoyed the Zelda games, and I've been wanting to play Breath of the Wild, but I hadn't had time since it came out 4 years ago,
Yeah, it's old
uh,
now.
and I finally have the time, and it's an absolutely beautifully done game, one of the best designed open world games that I've ever played, and it also dives the deepest into the history and lore of Hyrule and the Zelda franchise than I've ever experienced with any of the games that I've played. So
See, that's so interesting to me because, like, I was never really into Zelda, so I don't have the nostalgia factor there at all. And all I know about Zelda's storyline is from that Brian David Gilbert Unraveled video where he tries to place everything in the timeline.
yeah,
So I have no idea what the story is, but is the story then in Breath of the Wild well written and told, or
it is through quest line and thing like that, kind of typical. It does. There are a lot of cutscenes that kind of dive deep down.
yeah,
But like even everything from like the N64 games is so for those who aren't familiar with Legend of Zelda, it's essentially these three powers in like there's the princess, the hero, and then the villain that they just continually get reborn and reincarnated.
Yeah.
So each game is essentially a new reincarnation of that life cycle.
That's why Link's always a different age.
Yeah. But this is set furthest in the future than any of the other games. So there's all of that past stuff is very like artistically like classic, I guess. Compared to us, it's visually more represented and written, kind of like Greek mythology and things like that,
Sure.
with like the art styles. So it's cool having played some of the games earlier in the timeline and seeing this and kind of how they're representing it, and it's just beautifully done.
That's really cool. Well, I may eventually get around to playing Breath of the Wild, because I have heard good things, and even from like not really Zelda fans before. So that's awesome. So Dune and Zelda, check him out. Anyway, so we're going to take a very short break here, about a minute long, just to go to the bathroom, basically. And when we come back, we will play the game and create a story together. All right? We will see you in just a bit. And we're back. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second half of the show, where we play Storyboard. Just for those who maybe haven't seen it before, the second part of the show involves us playing this game. For this, we will be using a single suit from a deck of cards, 13 cards total, and consulting a series of tables, which will guide us through the creation of a story. We'll start by drawing a card each to determine two characters who will be central to the plot. Next, we'll draw a card for an important location, which will show up somewhere throughout the story, and then one for an object that will show up somewhere throughout the story. We then take 3 turns each, drawing a card and consulting the events table, which will tell us a thing that happens at some point in the story, and ask us questions about how our characters are involved. At the end, we'll draw a random card from the final 3 cards we had, the climax card, which will throw some chaos into the mix. So, Tim, are you ready to get started?
Ready.
So, since you are the guest, you get to choose what genre we are playing. From the 4 currently available, I am working on writing more. I am currently in the midst of a cyberpunk one. I want to do a western one. I'll do more. And the 4 genres available are teen drama, or like high school drama, horror, sci-fi, and fantasy. Which would you like to play, Tim?
Sci-fi.
Sci-fi it is. Let me switch to my sci-fi music. Whoops, that was way too loud.
Why are you picking me?
It's very like epic music because I'm thinking like Star Trek always has that sort of epic orchestral stuff going on. So, sci-fi. First, we have to choose a couple characters, and the way we do this is we use these charts that I will pull up on the screen. For instance, we have these characters. I keep switching to zoom instead of switching to what I'm supposed to be switching to. I'm going to shuffle the deck. I chose diamonds this time. I hope you're okay with that suit.
Yeah.
Good. Not that it matters. Just I just did clubs and then spades, and now we're on to diamonds. So this is just for me for no reason at all. All right, we are shuffled. So this one will be your character. Ready? We have a Jack of Diamonds. Jack of Diamonds is the ancient being.
Sweet.
So the character associated with your... note, though, that these characters, you don't have to only control your character. You can bring in my character whenever it's necessary. So the ancient being is character number 1. Now start thinking about a name or a title or whatever for your character here. Once we have both characters, we'll come up with sort of a basic idea of who they are and how they might be associated.
Cool.
Second, my character is 4 of Diamonds, which is the crime kingpin.
Nice.
We had the crime kingpin when Ansel was on the first week, and he was awesome, but now it's got to be someone completely different. In fact, at least for my character, I'm going to go with the crime kingpin is a woman named Sierra Falls. Sierra Falls. Sierra Falls is the crime kingpin of this universe that we're in, and she is she's just well known throughout the sector, and she is very good at sort of grifting and staying just on the other side of the law, like able to operate a legit business. That's where Sierra Falls is. Who is this ancient being, Tim?
Ancient being will be Aratax.
Aratax?
Aratax Zandorn.
Zandorn. I'm putting an X, 2 X's in that name. So we've got the crime kingpin, Sierra Falls, who I imagine is like always has like perfectly done up sort of bun hair. She looks like a villain in a Final Fantasy game. And the ancient being Aratax Zandorn is this. I mean, obviously they're ancient. They've been around a long time. Are they more of a ancient being like Queen Latifah's character in Star Trek, which I can't remember the name of right now?
Whoopi Goldberg.
Whoopi Goldberg, not Queen Latifah, sorry. Whoopi Goldberg's character, who I still can't remember. Guinan. Is Aratax Zandorn more of a Guinan or more of a ancient sort of Odo style character?
Let's let's say more of a Guinan.
Okay.
Kind of involved and active, but people don't really know that he's an ancient being.
Sure.
He's kind of, let's say, a roguish type.
Yeah, a roguish type.
Again, the acquired knowledge and experience that comes from being an ancient being.
Sure. So I think then Aratax and Sierra, for some reason, are in some sort of working relationship. I think that would work best. So Sierra's business is, shady, but she works in all types of things. She has vague crime kingpin job, and Aratax somehow works with or for Sierra. So that's what we've got so far. For the location, here we go. We have the Ace of Diamonds, which is the bridge of a spaceship.
Nice.
That's pretty classic. Classic stuff. So we at least know that we now have a spaceship in this bridge of a spaceship. Cool. And for our object, we have 8 of Diamonds, which is a relic from an ancient civilization. That works perfectly. Absolutely perfectly. So, a relic from an ancient civilization is important to the story somehow. Now, I think this relic has to be owned by Aratax or discovered by Aratax, but it definitely has to have something to do with Aratax. So throughout the story, throughout these events that we do, we will discover how that makes sense and how all this combines together, all right? Sweet.
Yeah.
All right, so would you like to start with the first event, or would you like me to?
Go for it.
Okay. So first event. Let me switch to the sci-fi events table. First event is a 2 of Diamonds. Someone was caught red-handed doing something nefarious. Who was it? What were they doing? And were they caught by one or both of your characters? So I think the nefarious deed was me. I think it was Sierra Falls was doing something nefarious. Because as I mentioned, Sierra is really good at staying sort of just on the correct side of the law. But sometimes she does break the law. And I think the nefarious thing is that she's trying to make 2 sort of civilizations fight each other. And she's starting a war between a couple civilizations on purpose so that she can profit from both of them. And what Aratax discovers Sierra doing is sending you catch communiques from Sierra to both of the civilizations, both with code names that are trying to make them butt heads and start this actual conflict, and it's bringing up things to do with families and sort of an ancient conflict between these two. So Aratax finds this out, and is, I don't know how Aratax reacts to that, but is at least in the know that Sierra is behind this conflict. So Sierra sends communications to 2 civilizations who used to be in conflict, both with pseudonyms, both with fake names, and both bringing up this ancient conflict. They, for viewers or listeners, because I'm hoping to do this as a podcast eventually, I am typing up what I just said. In order to get them to fight again, so Sierra can profit. Aratax intercepts these messages. So we've got these 2 civilizations, and Aratax has intercepted that Sierra is evilly starting a conflict between them, and that's what we have so far. All right, your go. That is a 6 of diamonds, which is something about the other person draws you to them. What is it? Note, this is not necessarily romantic.
So Artax, he's been searching for this ancient relic, be it something from his past or something that he just wanted to acquire. And in his travels, he brought him to one of these civilizations that's becoming involved in this conflict. And as he learns more of what's going on, he begins detecting these signals that happen to be, while bounced around, he ends up tracing back to this particular origin point. And upon further research, goes to find Sierra and why she is trying to orchestrate this conflict.
So how does so it draws you to him because of the or because of these ancient these signals and your search for the relic? Cool. Yeah. So you're being drawn there for personal and business like reasons. You want to find out what she's doing and how she and why she's doing it, and maybe she knows something about the relic too. But so one of these civilizations, let's name these civilizations. Let's see. The civs are called the Max and the Tins. That's what I got. The Max and the Tins.
The Max and the Tins.
Yes. Tins for some reason has 2 T's, just because it's sci-fi. Cool. So that we have that. Next one. Whoop. If I had an assistant, I could switch screens, have them do it, but I don't. All right, 3 of diamonds. So this one is: a deal is made by one of your characters and someone. What is this deal, and how does it? Oh, I know. How does it affect the other character? I know exactly what to do for that. Sierra, Aratax goes to Sierra, and asks about this relic. Like, does she know anything about it? Like, doesn't let her know that he knows that she's causing this conflict or anything. But since she seems intimately involved with the Max and the Tins, he is on this quest to find this relic because it has something deeply to do with him and his past, I think, is the strongest way to do it. So Aratax goes to Sierra, like tracks her down and finds her, and asks about this relic, which is what sort of relic would it be? Do you think?
Let's say it's a repository of knowledge that contains ancient advanced technology, schematics, and just machinery and space travel components, weapons, things like that.
Cool. So ancient repository of ancient technological information.
Yes.
To see if she can help him locate it. Sierra agrees to help, but he has to help her with her plan as well, which is to cause this conflict, which will have many people die in order to make Sierra a lot of money. So agrees to help if Aratax helps her with her plan of creating this profitable conflict. So that is the deal that is struck between our two characters. Things are not looking good for...
No.
All right. Next is yours. It is a 10 of diamonds. Someone gets sick. How did they get sick? Is it contagious? And can you cure it? And also, I will add a slight addition to that. how does that affect this deal and what we're doing? And
We'll get sick.
so I have an idea, but if you want, you can use, I forgot to mention at the beginning, there is one mulligan you can use if you are worried about that, or you can just figure out how to fit it into the story.
I would like the mulligan.
Okay.
I like this one.
Okay, so we will mulligan. So I'm going to reshuffle the cards here and choose a different one. All right. Back to the sci-fi events. King, a video log reveals an assassination plot. Who is trying to kill whom, and when will it happen?
Video an assassination plot.
Yeah. So I have a few ideas if you need some help.
I want to kind of go with so that Artax has leverage against Sierra.
Yeah.
That it's actually an assassination plot against her. Almost like a hidden bounty log, or something like that, or somebody on the planet has discovered through like back channels how this war is kind of starting to be orchestrated.
Yeah, he finds a log by someone on the planet. I like that a lot. Planet where they've discovered the orchestrator of the conflict and wishes to get rid of him, right? So Artax uses this as like leverage against Sierra?
Yes. But not like, I'm going to say that he keeps it secret for now.
Can use it. This is leverage.
So that he can still act like he's fulfilling his end of the bargain, but still get the artifact with her help that he's longing for.
Yeah, I like that a lot. So cool. So he's discovered that someone, at least a few people on the planet, are privy to the Sierra's plot, but he keeps it secret so that he can continue like sort of a grift and continue being a loyal helper for Sierra. Cool. So I'll switch to that again, and mine is Queen. Someone important dies. How are you involved? All right. So there is a leader of this civilization. How about the leader of the Tins? The leader of the Tins is killed in the sort of first blood of this conflict. And this starts a bigger war, and people start dying. Sierra is selling like weapons and whatnot to either side. I'm gonna.
As one does.
Pardon?
As one does.
Yeah, you know. And I think. So I think the relic is with. Let's say it's with the Max. For some reason, they have it in their museum or something like that, and they don't know what it is, and they've been trying to study it, but like unable to do so. It is revealed that the Max have this ancient relic. Sierra's involved in the killing only because she started the conflict. That's how it has to be. But at least they discover that the Max have it, and now they have to. So Artax knows that this is a thing, but the conflict is becoming bigger and worse, and it's like hard to even be down on the planet's surface. There's always like lasers and guns and explosions going on all the time on the surface, and even being down there, like Sierra is sort of protected, but like I think Artax like wants to go down to get this relic and needs to figure out a way to get there. So with this last card and the climax card, we have to figure out if he gets the relic, how he does it, and what happens to Sierra, which we will be able to do. So, your card is a 9 of diamonds. Now that can be really interesting. You are both forced to play a deadly game. Who is forcing you, and what's the game? So
I'm going to say it's the... You go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say we both are presumably down on the planet now. So we do have to have a bridge of a spaceship happen at some point here as well. Just to remember that. But
yeah, I was gonna. So yeah, we ended up traveling down to the planet, or let's say I get shot down.
That's good.
And she comes to find me and confront me on my ship. Maybe I've presented the information that I have this assassination plot against her, and then we're kind of both at arms trying to kill each other.
Okay, so Artax says, like, I know you were behind, or there are people down here who know you were behind the plot. I'm not sure what the purpose of them fighting here would be.
Yeah, I don't like
But
that.
what could happen is the Max are the people who knew about the plot from the beginning, and they shot down this ship. Sierra comes down to like check on you to make sure you're fine, just as a relatively innocent thing. And in this moment outside the ship, you like are like the doors are closed right now, but you hear banging, and you look on the computer screen, and it shows that outside the ship you're beginning to get surrounded by the Max soldiers who are here to like come down on you, and you're both standing on this bridge of the ship of the shot down ship, and that is a conflict that is occurring. Our attacks. Hold on, let me write this out and I'll read it. So we hear banging, etc. outside the ship. Our attacks checks out the viewfinder and sees that Mac soldiers are outside and have surrounded the ship. This, I think, would be where Artax would reveal that they know you're behind it.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
New Sierra was behind the conflict. So yeah, Artax reveals that he found out that the Max knew Sierra was behind the conflict.
Does Sierra know of the relic?
I would say yes. And
So, yeah,
here is
that
where
very much of interest to her as well.
Well, I think yes, and here is where it's like gotta be they don't know what that thing does. And I barely do, but I know you. I've looked into you, and I stole some DNA or something, and I know you're part of that civilization, and you can get it to work, and you can. I will renounce my evil ways or whatever. We can stop this conflict and get out of here alive, if we just convince them to use the relic and that you can use it. Right?
Yeah.
All right. Sierra found out that our attacks was one of these ancient people and suggests convincing the Max that we can end the conflict by using the relic as long as our attacks uses it. Cool. So now we're on the climax card section, where we have one final thing, one weird nonsense thrown into the thing. So I'm going to shuffle these up again for no reason. 5. Someone important to the characters dies. I think someone important to the characters has got to be one of the characters, and I think it's got to be Sierra. Unless you have other ideas. Do you have someone else important? We haven't introduced that many characters, so.
No, I'm not. I can't think of too much for that regarding that.
That's all right. I think it would make sense. So they do manage to convince them somehow. Like, we can end this conflict with the information on that device, and they're like, we can't get it to work. And Sierra's like, trust me, I know I'm the bad guy here, but I don't want to die at right now, and I'm willing to end this conflict and my whole involvement in this, but Aratax needs to use the device here. And so they're taken and moved to this museum where they have it, or this lab. And Aratax takes this device, and it like opens up for him, and there's this blast of light, and you see on his eyes like all this ancient text sort of go down, and all the Macs start freaking out and like aiming guns at him, and Sierra's like, no, we've got to stop. The only way this will help, the only way we can end this conflict is by sharing the information. This thing doesn't only have weapons, it has life technology, and we can work together and use it. And somebody like freaks out too much and just like shoots her as Aratax finally finishes the download of this information. And Sierra's like dying on the ground, and the Max who shot her is like, I'm so sorry, and gets his gun taken away by the rest of them. And Aratax is like, she's right. If we work together, we can end this conflict and make a better world for both of you, both the Max and the Tins. And he like kneels down and says, I know you weren't a good person, Sierra. And she's like, yeah, thanks. But you saved these civilizations now. It may have been a roundabout way, but we can finish it and work together. But Sierra doesn't make it and says, just... at least you didn't die, mate. And something like that, and does pass away. As Aratax sets to work, making a better civilization for both of them. Now I have to write all that down. Sierra manages to convince the Max to bring Aratax to the device, stating that there is more info on that device than just weaponry. There's stuff that can be used to form a better civilization. Provided Aratax can use it. As Aratax picks up the device. As Aratax picks up the device, it begins downloading all this information. This info into him. And a Mac freaks out. As Sierra tries to defend Aratax, she is shot. Aratax finishes the download and says that she's right, and sets about working to end the conflict and create a better world, thanking Sierra as she passes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we have a whole friggin' story here. If only I had dictation software, says Song in the chat. I agree. It would be even better if I had someone just typing it for me, honestly, because it's so, like, vague. But all right. So that was storyboard. What I'm going to do now, though, is read the whole story, what we have from the beginning to the end. And then we'll say our goodbyes and finish up this episode. All right. So, we open on Sierra. Sierra Falls, the crime kingpin, sending a communication to two civilizations, the Macs and the Tins, both using fake names, like for each of these communiques, and bringing up an ancient conflict between the two civilizations in order to get them to fight again. She wants to profit off this conflict. Aratax, an ancient being, intercepts these messages and knows that Sierra is behind the coming conflict. Aratax, meanwhile, has been searching for this ancient relic in his travels and is brought to one of these civilizations, the Macs, mainly, and he begins detecting like symbols or communications which trace back to Sierra Falls and her plan. Aratax goes to Sierra and asks about this relic, which is a repository of ancient technological information, to see if she can help him locate it. Sierra agrees to help if Aratax helps her with her plan of creating this profitable conflict. Aratax agrees, but discovers that there's an assassination plot against Sierra. He finds a log by someone on the planet, specifically someone in the Max, where they've discovered that the orchestrator of the conflict is Sierra and wishes to get rid of the problem. Aratax can use this as leverage against Sierra, but keeps it secret so he can pretend like he's fulfilling his end of the bargain. The leader of the Tins is killed in the first blood of this conflict, and this starts a bigger war and people start dying. Sierra is selling weapons and whatnot to either side. It is revealed that the Max have this ancient relic in like a museum somewhere. As Aratax goes down to get the device, Aratax gets shot down by someone on the planet, and Sierra comes down to find him on his ship. We hear banging, etc. outside the ship. Aratax checks out the viewfinder and sees that Max soldiers are outside and have surrounded them. Aratax reveals that he has found that the Max knew that Sierra was behind the conflict. Sierra found out that Aratax was one of these ancient people and suggests convincing the Max that we can end the conflict by using the relic as long as Aratax uses it. Sierra manages to convince the Max to bring Aratax to the device, stating that there is more info on that device than just weaponry. There's stuff that can be used to form a better civilization, provided Aratax can use it. As Aratax picks up the device, it begins downloading this info with a bright light into him, and the Mac freaks out. As Sierra tries to defend Aratax, she is shot. Aratax finishes the download and reveals that she was right, and sets about working to end the conflict and create a better world, thanking Sierra as she passes, having saved his life and perhaps started a better world for these people, even though she was not great. Basically, she's just chaotic neutral. But yeah, so that we created a story in half an hour. How about that?
Nice.
Tim, I want to thank you so much for joining us on this third episode of Storyboard. It was really wonderful to have you and talk about your creating and stories you're into and creating this story with you. If you have anything you want to say at the end here.
It was an absolute pleasure. This was super cool and such an easy, well implemented concept to bring a new story and realm to life. So thank you for having us. If you guys have any questions about any fabrication or build related things, you can find us online at hdcfabrication.com.
Yep, all those links are also in the YouTube description, which will be there. So.
Yeah. And then same HDC Fabrication on all social media and everything. So Cameron, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you as well for joining me. I'm going to hang up this Zoom call now so I can do a little bit of an outro, but it was wonderful seeing you and talking with you. Have a wonderful day and take care of yourself.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So thank you all for joining us on this third episode of Storyboard. Storyboard is creation by Hella's Hand Productions, my production company. All the music used, or the single music on a loop used for this production, is from Tabletop Audio. Tabletopaudio.com is a really excellent place to get music and ambiences, etc. for your tabletop RPGs and storytelling games, evidently. All my information about my work, including my music with Even Death May Die, my sort of film projects with Hella's Hand Productions, and Welcome to the Bone Era, my D&D Real Play podcast, is all linked in the description here on YouTube. The intro animation was created by Jeremiah Erickson. The intro music was composed by me. Stay tuned next week. Well, not stay tuned, but catch us next week where I have another guest. Next week's guest is Jason Marnoka, one of my absolute closest friends and excellent, fabulous voice actor. So that'll be a fun talk about voice acting, the industry, etc. So it was wonderful having you all here. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Take care of yourselves. Bye.